In the state of Nevada, Cliven Bundy and his family are currently caught in a fight over land with the federal government. This is over his long-standing refusal to acknowledge a 1993 modification to grazing rights on the land. Bundy claims the land has been in his family since the 1800s, and on Saturday, hundreds of federal officials, helicopters, low-flying aircraft, and hired cowboys began rounding up Bundy's cattle in northeastern Clark County, Nevada. Bundy stated to the media, "I have raised cattle on that land, which is public land for the people of Clark County all my life. Why I raise cattle there and why I can raise cattle there is because I have preemptive rights. Who's the trespasser here? Who is the trespasser on this land? Is the United States trespassing on Clark County, Nevada land? Or is Cliven Bundy who is trespassing on Clark County, Nevada land? Who is the trespasser?" While more than 100 supporters violated a crudely taped-off First Amendment area to rally in support of the Bundy family, they erected 2 flagpoles with the words "We the People" above a flag which read, "Liberty, freedom, for God we stand." The First Amendment area stood empty with one sign nearby declaring, "First Amendment is not an area." The feds say the move is about enforcing the law and protecting the endangered desert tortoise, but the Bundy family says the spat represents a showdown between big government and American farmers. The feds claim that the removal of the cattle from the land will cost taxpayers roughly $3 million. Pete Santilli is on the scene. He's a former U.S. Marine and radio host who hopes for revolutionary change to come in America. He's coming to us live from the Bundy Ranch in Nevada via Skype. Pete, welcome to the program.
Hey, thanks for having me, Gary. How are you?
Very good. Pete, this event is already being compared to the next Ruby Ridge or Waco siege. Are you seeing parallels?
You know, it certainly has the potential for that, but let me share with you what I've discovered upon arriving here on the ground. Now, I was told that there's 600,000 acres in question here, where the BLM, the Bureau of Land Management, has essentially declared, I'm going to state it exactly the way I feel it. Okay, this is much bigger than just the Bundy family having their cattle literally stolen by the federal government. This is an undeclared, and I have pictorials as well to show this, it's an undeclared state of martial law here for a community of a couple thousand people. What they've actually done, let me give you an example of what I mean. They have placards placed all throughout along the roadsides. So in some cases, every 50 feet or so. If you stop your vehicle and you get out and you place your foot in dirt, we had one incident a couple of days ago where one of the Bundy family members was actually gang tackled by 20 people and taken to prison. The threat of federal prison. Should you violate this undeclared state of emergency here, of martial law, you go to federal prison. That is the threat. Essentially, what they're attempting to do is to cordon off this land to literally using hired cowboy ranchers who are highly paid to come in here with brand new trucks and trailers to corral up the cattle, and they're taking them out to auction immediately. As of right now, this morning, these auctions are being held. They're taking the cattle owned by the Bundy family, and they're auctioning them off right now. So that, in addition to a couple of other things that we can discuss as we move along. But
well, Pete, this is clearly a property rights issue gone awry. And yesterday, the Bundys released a video of the feds backing off after a confrontation on their land. What is the environment like right now on the Bundy farm?
The environment is as follows, and this is probably the main reason why I want to speak to as many people as possible. This is the worst case scenario, and this was stated, I stated this directly to the top law enforcement officials here on the ground. The worst thing that could happen is for the BLM to outnumber the protesters. They have hundreds of people with guns, ARs. They look like corporate mercenaries with BLM stickers on their badges, that is. The worst thing that could happen is that the American public allows these goons to outnumber the civilian population, and the BLM will have free reign and win. Now, are there going to be protesters coming out here? We're hearing that we're expecting in the thousands. We've got militia members coming out here peacefully to take a stand, of course, but we need numbers out here. The BLM knows that if they're outnumbered and they're outgunned, essentially, not one shot should ever have to be fired. But you know what? They're going to stand down. They want peace. They want safety for everyone. The Bundys want their cattle back. And we want the BLM to get out of the state of Nevada and not assert their federal authority here where they have none.
Now, what is the story behind the Bundy, or was it a Bundy family member who was filming and they had snipers trained on him or the person who was filming?
I have seen the sniper perches. There is very sophisticated technology being employed, motion detectors all across the fruited plain here. It's actually a desert area. There are motion detectors in the nighttime. There's infrared detectors, and there are snipers perched all around, including there was an Apache helicopter on the other side of the freeway I think within the past 24 hours. Very militarized zone. And Gary, I'm not over-sensationalizing this. This is literally an undeclared state of martial law. I mean, they have placards that say you will go to federal prison if you step foot on dirt, if you step off of the state roads.
Now, Pete, what this is all over a desert tortoise. Could you expound upon this, please?
Yeah, you know, and I'm hearing now. I have not personally seen the complaints that were filed. In fact, I'm kind of concerned as to whether or not, as the BLM puts it, that constitutionally they have an obligation under court orders. Two of them were two separate judges ruled that the BLM was to come in here to secure the land, to take the cattle off of land managed by the BLM. Now, how those lawsuits were filed is a trick that we typically see among the left-wing environmentalists. They will file a claim to protect the tortoise, but we know that 3 or 4 layers deep that there may be a corporation that's interested in fracking 5 years down the road. Now, do I know this to be true? I'm suspicious of that. I believe that there's some corporate interest there, but definitely, no doubt about it, there is a left-wing Agenda 21 in full effect, and they're utilizing the court system and using the BLM as their law enforcement arm to execute the orders by the court.
So, if we recall back to Waco, the Branch Davidians had refused to come out of their homes, and then, of course, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms surrounded their compound, set fire to the compound, killing women and children in the process. Has the Bundy family taken up any type of position? We saw yesterday the video where they were clearly out in an offensive posture, telling the BLM to leave, but are we seeing any sort of posturing that would resemble a reaction from the federal government that would result in an unfortunate Waco-style outcome?
Well, this is the difference between this scenario and Waco's. We have hundreds of thousands of acres here. Cattle are being corralled, and what we have now is a situation where if we have tens of thousands of people out here, I can say this with confidence that if we had tens of thousands of people, those people would convene at the front gates. Okay, I'll be right with you. Thanks. All right. These folks will actually go to the front gates where they have these cattle being herded up, and they will demand that the BLM stands down. These are fully armed. I mean, they are armed to the hilt. They've got ARs. They've got sidearms. They are well armed. A lot of law enforcement out here. I fully expect that the standoff will occur when thousands of people go to repossess the rightfully owned property, the cattle of the Bundy family.
So who is the trespasser here? Obviously, the Bundys believe it's the federal government, and the federal government believe it's the Bundys. Who has the right to the land?
I would say that this is a state's sovereignty issue. I would also say that, I mean, in the state of Nevada, the federal government, first of all, and the name suggests, the 3 letters, BLM, Bureau of Land Management. They do not even own this land. They manage it. But the land is actually owned by the state of Nevada. Now, the BLM comes in and they essentially manage land. Now, if there's a tortoise located on this land, they also take care of those considerations. But Gary, here's another disturbing fact, is that they can't even manage the extinct tortoises. They're actually having to euthanize some of these tortoises because they can't even manage those. So justification for coming in here to manage this land, they have zero authority legally. I think this should be seen in the highest levels of our court system to show that the federal government has zero authority. Now, we also have a very bad situation, Gary, where we have an unconstitutional sheriff. Here in this, his name is Sheriff Gillespie, and he absolutely refuses to exercise his constitutional authority and essentially tell the BLM, and he can do this, he can tell them to leave, and they would actually have to leave.
Now, I understand that the Sheriff Richard Mack, he's been a guest on this program in the past discussing the powers of the county sheriff. This is the same sheriff who won when he sued the Clinton administration about the Brady bill. Sheriff Richard Mack, he's issued a statement to the Clark County Sheriff. Has the Clark County Sheriff responded at all to Sheriff Mack's statements?
I would say the most resounding response that we've gotten from the sheriff is his inaction, his refusal to do anything. We've got state troopers out here that literally turn their backs when the BLM thugs in the numbers of, like, I think there's like 20 guys that will jump out of a convoy and take somebody down to the ground and arrest them and beat them. And it's happened here on numerous occasions, on a couple of separate occasions where they beat them. But the sheriff has refused to exercise his constitutional authority, where he could literally come out here and say, it's time for you guys to pick up marbles and go. And he's refusing to do it, and it's a shame. Has the governor of Nevada released a statement on the situation yet? I haven't seen or heard anything of the likes, but I'm telling you what, I mean, I feel an obligation to speak with even the BLM law enforcement. You know, they're out here saying that they're doing their job, they're following court orders. They want peace, so on and so on. They know that things are very, very wrong here. What they do know is that they do have the power right now. How they do, I guess they're just falsely asserting it over the state troopers and the county sheriffs. And it's an absolute shame. I would say that that's the biggest crux of this problem right now. Okay, Pete, any final thoughts? If you want to give us a panoramic view of what we can see there? I'm going to give a panoramic view. This is deep in my soul, deep in my heart. This is the worst thing that could happen right now, and I want everyone to know this. The worst case scenario right now is if the American people, all they need to do is peacefully show up out here, and we need strength in numbers. The BLM, the Sheriff's Department, the state troopers, they will all stand down. But because the American people are not showing up in numbers and they're sitting on Twitter and Facebook, this is why I came out here. I wanted to get out here to meet with these people. We need strength in numbers, and that's how we're going to have success here in taking back our Constitution. But if the American people stay home, guess what? The feds outnumber us, and they will do what they will. Pete, can you pick up your camera and give us a shot of the area? I can. Here we go. Look at this. Here. You see that? So is that the Bundy Ranch behind you there? Yeah, the Bundy Ranch. Right now I'm standing on private property. As a matter of fact, the little town of Bunkerville here is interspersed, but the Bundy Ranch itself is outside of this BLM territory. It's essentially federally managed land, but we're standing on Bundy property right now. Pete, we have to run, but bottom line it for the American people, how does this affect the right of freedom, property, and liberty? You know, how this affects our rights is what we're willing to surrender. What we will surrender, but by not showing up here and essentially being the last line of defense and enforcing the supreme law of the land. That's how it will affect our rights. It will affect our rights based on how we respond to this. We, the people, must rise up peacefully, do so in numbers, and demand that we preserve our God-given rights. But thanks for having me on, Gary. All right, Pete. Thanks for joining us. WHCT World News. That was Pete Santilli from the Guerrilla Media Network. You can catch his radio show at petesantilli.com.